111 phase_5_ determining secret dualistic grasping and revealing the way of Natura L liberation. Phase 5 determining secret dualistic grasping and revealing the way of natural liberation. C. The process of delusion in impure samsara. This section has 5 parts: 1. Inner dualistic grasping, 2. Secret dualistic grasping, 3. How the 3 realms are not other than your own appearances, 4. Rudra as the essential nature of dualistic grasping of samsara, and 5. The wisdom of realizing the identitylessness of clinging to reality. 1. Inner dualistic grasping. This section has 2 parts, A. The summary and B. The elaborate explanation. At the summary. Thus, as for the emergence of impure appearances and mindsets of samsara, from the displays of great original purity. In reality, the delusive appearances of samsara are not established in the nature of existence, so without any divergence from the displays of the ground of being, great original purity, impure appearances and mindsets of samsara adventitiously emerge. The Secret Essence Tantra, Gayagava Tantra, states, amazing. From the Shugatagava are emanated one's own thoughts and actions, various bodies and enjoyments, places, miseries, and so on, are each grasped as I and mine. Bound by no one, there are no fetters. Nor is there anyone who is bound by grasping at thoughts as oneself. One's bonds are deliberately tied in space. B. The elaborate explanation. This section has 3 parts: I. Apprehended objects, E. Apprehending minds, and E. How objects and minds transform and dissolve in an instant. I. Apprehended objects. Subtle self-concepts, obscure wisdom and primordial consciousness. And due to the subsiding of the inner glow and radiance of the ground into the womb, the luminosity of its outer radiance, the ethically neutral substrate of samsara, manifests from immaterial space. And the consciousness of grasping at the I serves as the basis from which appearances and mindsets emerge. In the beginning, subtle self-concepts adventitiously arise where there is no self, obscuring the essential nature, wisdom, and its creative power, primordial consciousness. This causes the 5 kinds of inner glow of the ground, the 5 kayas of the 5 radiances, and the 5 facets of primordial consciousness to subside into the womb. Due to that, all the appearances and mindsets of samsara arise like dream appearances, and the 5 facets of primordial consciousness are obscured by ignorance, resulting in the outer radiance manifesting as the 5 lights. By reifying and clinging to the true existence of the inner elements, to the vital core of the 5 elements, and to the great elements, they appear as the impure 5 elements and are called the outer elements, derivative elements, or residual appearances. From the creative power of these 5 bases of delusion arise conditioned consciousness and the assemblies of mental afflictions. The essential nature of the substrate, which acts as the basis of all the delusive apparitions of samsara, is ethically neutral, neither good nor bad, and it is a blank, unthinking vacuity, like immaterial space. This is the actual substrate, and it is the essential nature of the mental affliction of delusion. From this, the movement of the karmic energies of an eon is the essential nature of envy, and from the immaterial space of the substrate manifests the luminosity that is the basis for the emergence of all thoughts. This consciousness is the substrate consciousness, and it is the essential nature of hatred. From this, the coarse consciousness of grasping at the I, thinking, I am, serves as the basis from which appearances and mindsets emerge. This is afflictive mentation, and it is the essential nature of pride. As soon as it occurs, the self and all appearances emerge, and they are called prior thoughts and apprehended objects. E. Apprehending minds. With mentation alone established as the basis from which appearances arise. From the movements of the 6 kinds of conditioned consciousness. manifest indeterminate phenomena, like hallucinations. As afflictive mentation becomes somewhat fortified, the principal mind, mentation alone, is aroused, and appearances emerge in the ground. With the fortification of their luminosity, it is established as the basis from which appearances suddenly arise. This non-conceptual mentation is the essential nature of the mental affliction of attachment. From the flamme-like essential nature of the five poisons emerge arrays of afflictive thoughts like sparks. In dependence upon that mentation, the nature of the six kinds of conditioned consciousness of the five non-conceptual senses moves, and from the creative power of their movements manifest indeterminate phenomena such as visual forms, like hallucinations appearing to distorted vision. As conceptual mentation reifies names and their reference and closely adheres to them, they are called subsequent thoughts and apprehending minds. How objects and minds transform and dissolve in an instant. Sporadically, like hair tips moved by the wind. Due to the five energies that emanate, vacillate, differentiate, assemble, and transform. The impure aeon is created, abides, and is destroyed and emptied. None of the objects and agents that appear like this move from one place to another. Sporadically, with no ability to sustain themselves, like hair tips moved by the wind, they are impermanent from moment to moment, with the prior moments ceasing and the latter moments emerging. So recognize them simply as transformations. Moreover, the obscuring energy veils the eye of wisdom, and it freshly emanates appearances that were not there before. Vacillating energy manifests all kinds of indeterminate appearances. Differentiating energy individually differentiates appearances and mindsets. Assembling energy assembles the defilements of habitual tendencies, and transforming energy instantly transforms phenomena. Due to the functioning of these five energies, or subtle and coarse thoughts, the impure aeon that did not exist previously is instantly, freshly created, abides, and is destroyed and emptied. However, you must know that this just cannot be fathomed, due to its being contaminated by other delusive causes. 2. Secret dualistic grasping. The five sensory consciousnesses give rise to apprehended objects, which are apprehended by the roving thoughts of subtle mental consciousness. In one day, countless subtle eons vanish. Completely withdrawing into the domain of mentation, daytime appearances arise. And with the complete withdrawal into the domain of the substrate, nighttime appearances arise. When you fall asleep, an eon dissolves into the space of awareness. This section shows that all appearances are adventitious appearances of consciousness. From visual consciousness to tactile consciousness, the non-conceptual consciousnesses of the five senses give rise to apprehended objects. They are apprehended by the roving thoughts of subtle, conceptual mental consciousness, which arises as the mind, and this is closely held. The senses, including the visual sense, act as the basis for the emergence of visual forms and so on, and these arise as objects. Visual consciousness and the other sensory consciousnesses fully apprehend coarse forms and so on. The conceptual mind closely holds on to each subtle phenomenon and becomes deluded. Through this temporal sequence mundane existence is compounded, and through the reverse sequence there is a collapse all the way to the peak of mundane existence. Thus, in one day, countless, or manifold, subtle eons adventitiously form corresponding to the number of thoughts, and gradually vanish. Consequently, appearing objects and the subject who perceives them completely withdraw into the domain of non-conceptual mentation, so that daytime appearances arise uninterruptedly. Finally, due to the daytime appearances of objects and the subject who perceives them completely withdrawing into the domain of the substrate, nighttime appearances arise. So when you fall asleep, an eon of daytime appearances suddenly dissolves without a trace into the vacuous space of awareness. After they have dispersed into that vacuity, the substrate consciousness and mentation gradually arise, giving rise to nighttime appearances, or dream phenomena. Eventually they subside into the domain of mentation, leading to the emergence of new daytime appearances. This unmistakably reveals the culmination of the circumstances of conventional reality. The Lankavatara Sutra states, "The substrate consciousness is like an ocean. The 6 apprehending modes of consciousness that arise from it are like waves." In summary, to the deluded mind, the apprehender and the apprehended appear as utterly separate, but in reality they are asserted to be established merely by prior thoughts that are closely held by subsequent thoughts. This is the unsurpassed position of this jnana. 3. How the 3 realms are not other than your own appearances. The substrate spontaneously actualizes the formless realm. Afflictive mentation, the form realm. And mentation, the desire realm. Not even an atom of the 3 realms possibly exists out there. The substrate, which was explained previously, spontaneously actualizes the 4 dimensions of the formless realm. 99 Afflictive mentation spontaneously actualizes the 17 domains of the form realm, and mentation spontaneously actualizes the 6 domains of existence in the desire realm, from the gods on down. By identifying each one and acquiring confidence in this, you authentically establish on the basis of authoritative treatises and reasoning that the phenomena of the realms of existence are merely freshly arising appearances. And not even an atom of the 3 realms possibly exists out there. 4. Rudra as the essential nature of dualistic grasping of samsara. The Rudra of the view of self is the matramka of samsara. Your body is the desire realm, your speech is the form realm. And your mind abides as the 4 dimensions of the formless realm. Flesh, blood, warmth, breath, the white and red bindus, the space of awareness. The 4 elements, the sun, moon, and Rahula are thus established. The Rudra of the view of self, entailing dualistic appearances, is the basis and essential nature of all the phenomena of samsara, so it is called matramka. In accordance with relative truth, a child who devours his or her mother's corpse is called matram, but this is not to be taken literally. What is meant here is that the impure physical world and its sentient inhabitants in samsara freshly emerge from adventitious self-concepts. From the time that they obscure the nature of existence of the Shugatagava, which is like a mother, so that it is hidden, all the domains of existence of samsara are dualistically established as the mere aggregates, elements, and sense bases of Rudra. So your body, Rudra, is the desire realm, your speech is the form realm, and your mind abides as the 4 dimensions of the formless realm. Your flesh is earth, blood is water, warmth is fire, breath is air, and mind is space. Those are the 4 elements. The white bindu is the moon, the red bindu is the sun, and the empty space of awareness is the planet Rahula. Here 2 lines are merged in the commentary, so in order to easily distinguish them, I have commented on one sequence beginning with the reference to blood. That is the way they are established. The substrate consciousness is Mahasvara, afflictive mentation is Ganesa, and mentation is Kamaraja. This indicates that all the assemblies of matters appear in dependence upon the 3 secret places of Rudra. To classify them, the physical worlds throughout space are the Rudra of the outer view of the self, which is remedied in the phase of the stage of generation by purifying these worlds as Buddha fields created from emanated light. Grasping at the inner habitations, enjoyments, and body is the Rudra of the inner view of the self, which is remedied by meditating on the palace and deities. The latent, unlimited, continuous consciousness of the appearance of the self, with the sense of I, at all times and in every situation, is the Rudra of the secret view of the self, which is the thread running through all appearances and mindsets of samsara. The remedy for this is to steadfastly maintain divine pride. If you are unaware of this essential point, however long you cultivate and recite the stage of generation, you will not become enlightened. So the worship and accomplishment performed upon correctly realizing this point are the unmistaken tradition of the secret mantra, jnana. 5. The wisdom of realizing the identitylessness of clinging to reality. Liberated by the power and blessings of the sharp VAJRA. of conscious awareness of identitylessness in pure absolute space. The quintessences manifest as the kayas and facets of great primordial consciousness. Without abandoning samsara, you are liberated as a Buddha. Without abandoning the view of the self, it is pacified as a display of spontaneous actualization. The power and blessings of the actual Great Glorious One, Karikapa, the sharp Vajra of conscious awareness that realizes all things as being of the nature of identitylessness, liberate the Rudra of the view of the self involving dualistic grasping at the nature of identitylessness, and in the pure absolute space of spontaneous actualization, the quintessences manifest as the kayas and facets of great primordial consciousness. Without abandoning samsara, which seems to appear objectively, you are liberated as a Buddha. Without abandoning the view of the self, which seems to appear as a subject, it is pacified as a display of the spontaneous actualization of the kayas and facets of primordial consciousness. The causal view of the self and all the appearances and mindsets of samsara that it generates are nothing but concepts of a mistaken mind, like confusing a striped rope for a snake. Since they do not in fact exist, you realize that there is nothing to abandon, and you simultaneously actualize the kayas and facets of primordial consciousness that are present in the ground of being. Therefore, the accounts from the past of how the Great Glorious One liberated the Rudra are in accord with the ways of samsara, such that the one who was liberated and the one who liberated are both presented as having physical form. That is merely how they appear to ordinary beings. However, from the perspective of the Buddhas, you should know that it is like this. This concludes the fifth phase of the sharp Vajra, which reveals how natural liberation occurs.